I bought the new M1 MacBook Pro 16-inch and it's so damn good, I'm switching to Mac permanently. Now, to put things into perspective, I am a true PC guy. I've basically only used PC exclusively for the last 2 decades of my existence. And I've pretty much never thought at all about switching to a MacBook. I am a gamer, and because of that, I prefer Windows for pretty much everything. PCs are fun to build, they were more value for money, more practical, and just made sense. That was until the M1 Mac arrived. With the release of the first MacBooks with Apple Silicon, the world was shaken up because Apple had just done the unthinkable, and they have released a chip that was actually efficient enough to use less power than a windmill, but at the same time be powerful enough for the hardest of desktop tasks out there. I was floored when I first saw the M1 Mac's benchmarks for video editing, video rendering, and other intensive tasks. And I immediately considered that performance on the go advantage that it had as a possibility to be part of my life. Could this be the portable editing workstation that I was waiting for? The dream mobile setup that can do everything without being locked down to a charger. It definitely seemed like it was going to be that way. But because I was in a tough financial spot and there was really no need for a portable machine since I was entirely working at home, there was very little possibility or idea or want for the M1 Max. And then came along the Macbook Pro Refresh. And for me, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. With the 16-inch, Apple had just released about the best laptop ever made for literally anything apart from software that doesn't support the M1 Silicon, and also for gaming. It had all the ports you need, SD card reader, amazing display, gorgeous build. When I saw the release, I was pretty much instantly sold. I had to have it. How much? And with no M2 chip being announced, which was what I was kind of holding out for, and some money in my bank saved up, I pulled the trigger and got myself the MacBook Pro 16-inch with the 10-core CPU and 1 Pro chip. I was truly an eye sheep. Also, I swapped to an iPhone, so if you want to find out about that experience, that video will be coming soon. Now, Apple does first impressions better than anyone. It's almost like they have psychologists designing their products and designing their packaging. They probably do. Everything from the unboxing to the first look of the device to the feel to the parts that you touch when you use the device is just perfect. Classic Apple stuff here. It's drop-dead gorgeous with a flatter top and squarish design that is more reminiscent of the classic plastic MacBooks. But because it's thin and aluminium, it looks like a device that has never been made before, which is impressive. Apple pulled a masterclass in design once again, and somehow managed to do an insanely wonderful job of making a huge redesign while somehow managing to keep their device identifiably and distinctively a MacBook in every way that you expect it to be. Okay, maybe it's not that huge of a redesign, but it really looks unique and different and new and fresh. Instead of looking like a bloated paper envelope, it actually fits the term sleek, which Apple pioneered with the OG MacBook Air all those years ago. Now, I pick up the MacBook and it's a tank like expected. But what isn't expected is how much nicer it is to hold than the old MacBooks. I guess thick ties save lives for a reason, and thick cases too. As I open up the laptop for the first time, I'm hit with the absolute jump scare of the iconic MacBook. But what strikes me isn't the sound, it's the bass in the sound. It sounds rich, even though it's a laptop startup chime, and was kind of an indication of how good the speakers were to be. The screen turns on and I'm immediately struck by the eye-searingly bright 1600 nit display. It hit my eyes, it's micro LED. And 2 things stand out to me about it, apart from its candela per meter square. It's super contrasty with very deep blacks, and it's super sharp as well. Definitely retina from this viewing distance. I think 1600p is really a great resolution for this, especially with the 16:10 aspect ratio of this display, enabling great working environment for video editing or typing scripts. Also, from my color test, the color accuracy is darn near perfect too on this device, which isn't really that surprising to be fair, because it's an Apple Pro XDR certified display and Apple knows what they're doing when it comes to making high quality screens. Now, many complained about the notch when it first came out, and many people also said that the bezels weren't thin enough for a laptop released in 2022. Truth is, with a display this attractive, why would you be looking at anything else? I know it's a laptop, but this 16-inch screen is so much better looking than the real world half the time. It just pulls you in. It's immersive, and the bigger 16-inch display is just so much real estate that it feels like a proper monitor that you're looking at. Also, while the bezels could be improved, it's really not that bad. And speaking of immersive, the speakers somehow managed to do it too. Speakers are loud, but more than that, it's an absolute banging set of stereo speakers. It's got stereo sound with Apple's spatial audio technology, and while it isn't technically truly like spatial audio, if you sit in front of it, the sweet spot of these speakers, which they have been designed for, the sound is truly wraparound. It envelops you, it pulls you in, and it actually has notable positional feel. There is a substantial bass and fine details in all aspects of the frequency response. It fills up any room, okay, it fills up most bedrooms, no problem, and the most impressive set of speakers I've ever tested on a portable device ever, be it a phone or a laptop. These are genuinely my top 3 favorite things about the MacBook Pro 16-inch. It's absolutely phenomenal audio-wise. You see this? This is a mouse, and to be fair, they've gotten extremely ergonomic over the years. And nowadays, they're not only super responsive and light, they're also very comfortable with great battery life. They're really excellent, but I don't need them anymore. My collection is useless because the trackpad on here is amazing. It's glass and it's great. It's humongous, it's accurate, and it's so intuitive. I wish dating was like it. Easy and oh so satisfying. I spend most of my life typing away, scripting and breaking down technology, and I've dedicated a whole channel to my love for mechanical keyboards, so it's clear to see that typing feels important to me. And unfortunately for this laptop, the keyboard is its weakest link, the worst part of the MacBook Pro 16-inch. Not bad, and while a lot of people might like it, I don't. I think it's conducive to quick short bursts of typing, as Linus has noted with his MacBook Air review, but I personally really dislike this laptop's keyboard because, well, the travel is too short, and while the bottom out is very snappy and crisp, the short travel and lack of squish in the pre-travel makes for a typing experience that feels a bit harsh and a bit kind of aggressive in terms of the vibrations that end up resonating up my fingers. Just not very satisfying. It gets tiring pretty quick to type on. Short bursts are fine, but long typing sessions, not really. Well, at least when I type, my wrists stay pretty comfortable because they don't get any warmer or hotter. No, it's not because the fans are running at max tilt non-stop to keep the laptop cool. And no, it's not because I've lost the nerve endings in my wrists. And also, it's not because I type like this, like a vampire pianist playing the organ. I'm not a psychopath. But really, it's because of I'm the biggest PC fan. I love AMD, I love Intel, I love Nvidia, I love the x86 stuff. I game, right? But I'm gonna be real with you, I'm gonna be honest. This is the greatest tech release in the last 5 to 10 years, or the last 15. There, I said it. With Apple's excellent release of the ARM chips, they single-handedly started the snowball that will become an avalanche, I'm calling it now, that takes over the computing world. This release was a hole-in-one strike. I'm willing to bet that the next generation of consoles will be ARM chips, that in 5 to 10 years, Windows PCs with ARM that actually run well will start being popular and being a practical decision. All because of the release and how well the release was executed of the M1 Apple chip. I mean, we're already seeing the results of this Apple chip with Apple's M1 MacBook sales being extremely impressive and constantly growing at a rate that many people didn't think MacBooks can grow at. Now, there are a few reasons as to why the M1 chip release was so damn good. Number one is that it works. And it works very well. The M1 chips work flawlessly with most Mac OS x86 apps through Rosetta, And because Apple is Apple and MacBooks are popular, the number of native M1 apps that are designed for ARM are flying through the ceiling, which means the number of apps that are easily portable to ARM software platforms and chips are increasing and flying through the roof as well. This, plus the fact that M1 chips perform excellently in these apps through a combination of good engineering and great optimization, absolutely mean that ARM has taken a massive step forward in becoming the new mainstream, as both developers and consumers are incentivized to adopt and buy into the architecture. Developers because of the increasing consumer base, and consumers because of how good the hardware is, especially since these ARM chips don't perform just well in ARM design apps and tasks. They also perform well in the big, heavy tasks that one would usually consider to be more optimal for x86 machines. Number 2, these M1 chips are the perfect proof of the reason why ARM is the future, and that is its efficiency. Now, making ARM chips as powerful as x86 is difficult as is, but making these chips super efficient is perfect proof that not only can ARM keep up with x86, it can do so while being a magnitude or more in terms of how much more efficient and cool it is. And that is the way to show something is good. Now, imagine if ARM chips performed crazily well, but they performed all that while producing as much heat and consuming as much power as an RTX 3090. That wouldn't prove anything. But the fact that the M1 chips came out with the M1 Pro, M1 Max, and all these different ARM chips came out, performed as well as many of the x86 parts and beat x86 chips at heavy tasks while being so much more cool and power efficient, that's the way to show something is really good to the rest of the industry. Screw the industry. For me, a consumer, I just want to care about whether the chip is good for me and good for my life, and you're watching me for that too. Well, for me, the essentials in a laptop are video editing performance and battery life. For video editing, the software and M1 chips in here have been blended together into a congealed, optimized, and synchronized concoction. If you use DaVinci Resolve or Final Cut, because Premiere sucks, that is. And because of that, I get immense video editing performance from the M1 chips, meaning editing is an absolute breeze, pretty much as smooth of an experience as when I edit with an RTX 3080 desktop that has an i5 12600KF in it. And that's insane, because no other laptop before the M1 Mac laptops in the history of technology has been able to claim that. Charger-free, but no performance hit, full performance, massive 4K file video editing and rendering on the go. And to add a cherry on top, because it's so damn efficient, not only can it edit at full performance without a charger, it can edit 4K videos for 6-7 hours on this bright 1600 nit display without needing a charge. It is bonkers, and no x86 device can even claim to come close to this at all. The M1 chips, in my opinion, matter because it's a revolution for portable, big, powerful machines. It's ARM in its full evolution. It's truly portable performance with no compromises for the first time in the history of technology. Now, of course, it's not super optimized for everything yet, and plenty of software still needs to be ported over. And then inevitably, I'm sure some software will still run better on x86 hardware today, but even then, in pure performance per watt matrix, that is to say the amount of performance you get for the amount of wattage of power consumed, the M1 chips are just absolutely untouchable right now. And that's important because you can slap 1000 watts at a GPU, like Nvidia probably plans to do with the next 4000 series of GPUs, and make it win and defeat the M1 chips. But at the end of the day, one will make sense for most people than the 1000 watt processor, even if the 1000 watt processor is faster. Power ain't cheap, and it isn't getting any cheaper. Calm down, if not, they're gonna think you're an Apple shill, alright? Be a bit more chilled out. Breathe in, breathe out. Okay, let's go. Back to making the video. Another thing about the M1 chip is the heat. Efficiency means low power and good battery life, but it also means little energy wasted as heat, and low heat is good for me. It means I can lie on my bed with it there on the sheets, cool as a cucumber. It means the laptop can be on my lap's top, no problem. It means I can hit render and I don't have to contend with a jet engine in front of me, and that is just life-changing, man. It's quiet, cool, it's just more versatile, it's wonderful. And since we're on the topic of sound, this has a pretty good headphone jack as well, but flanking those headphone jacks are some impressive selections of ports. We've got HDMI for connecting to a screen or a projector. Unfortunately, it's only 2.0. A really fast SD card reader. Yes. 3 USB-C Thunderbolt 4 ports, which is a must-have on a Pro device. And MagSafe. MagSafe is back, baby. Let's go. I mean, you already know that MagSafe is back on these laptops, but it is a really good thing to have, and I'm really glad that I have it. It's really, really good. And while the ports is good, I do have one request, if Apple even knows of my existence, which they absolutely do not. And that is to put another USB Type-A port on here. Because while Type-A isn't the greatest, and Type-A might be considered old tech, Type-A isn't going anywhere. And there are still plenty of devices being released to this day that have Type-A ports on them. And it's just nice to have that for convenience, legacy, or just plugging in things in general. Alright, so here's my first video recorded with the webcam. They hyped it up, right? They said it is really, really good. They even dedicated a whole ass notch to the webcam. So it must be nice, but not really impressed with it right now. They even have like some sort of skin smoothing filter on here that I definitely cannot turn off because my skin is good, but it doesn't look this good. Okay, so then 2 months later after buying this device, and I absolutely love this device still. It's been an absolute workhorse, blessed by Linus, and it has performed in every way I've needed it to except one. It doesn't have Windows. I know it's stupid, but I hate macOS, every inch of it. Okay, not every inch, but a lot of it. It is well optimized, okay, that I give it that. But it feels very clunky in many aspects. Still, especially in terms of how file systems in here work and organization in here work. It's very clunky, very impractical, and just doesn't really make sense. Now, I don't want to talk too much about it here because it will make this video way too long. It'll be in a future video. And the thing is, if there's one upgrade that this MacBook Pro 16-inch could have, Windows being on here that's well optimized will be the definition of it. Now then, we just have to wait for PCs to catch up because this MacBook just put Apple a couple years ahead. I won't be switching anytime soon. So let's conclude. The M1 MacBook Pro 16-inch is a beastly machine. It's unironically the best laptop on offer right now, especially if you're not trying to game. It's not cheap, of course. But if you want the best, most versatile machine, getting work done, unfazed by the challenge of battery and portability constraints, there's nothing better. There's nothing with less compromises, there's nothing with less trade-offs than the MacBook Pro 16-inch or 14-inch with the M1 chips. M1 chip is insane. But not only that, the machines using these chips are designed so brilliantly. I have so minimal complaints about this device, apart from the fact that it only has macOS, and there's nothing to complain about here. But there are a few big buts, like Nicki Minaj is in the room or something. One is software support. And the truth is, there are plenty of software that people use to get work done, be it corporate or design software or like engineering software that only supports Windows and doesn't support macOS. And even if it did support Mac, it might not run all that well considering how new and fresh the M1 platform is and the fact that it's on a whole new ARM architecture. New architecture also means big changes that might cause new bugs with the software that you're familiar with. So make sure that whatever you're working on, the software that you use to get things done, is compatible with the M1 Max and works well before taking the leap to this upgrade. Another is that you need to be okay with switching to macOS. Now, as a 21-year-old kid who is constantly messing with tech devices, the switch wasn't too bad. I had mental dexterity still to learn new OS and learn new habits. It's fine. Some will absolutely hate the learning process. Some will absolutely be just put off by switching to macOS. And if you're one of those people, then it's okay to stick with x86. You won't have the best laptop, but there are still plenty of excellent Windows laptops out there. And finally, it's gaming. If you need a gaming machine and you can't afford another device on top of your MacBook, then you're crap out of luck. Unless, of course, you're okay with the extremely limited selection of Mac games to begin with. And not to mention, these Mac games will be even more limited because most of them haven't been optimized to work or work well with the M1 chips. I think you can play League of Legends on here. Cannot play Valorant, even though it's a 120Hz display. But at the end of the day, for my personal needs and for my personal experience, I absolutely love this laptop. I love it so much. I really, really do enjoy it a lot. It does everything I need it to, and it's just so good. for getting the work done that I need to do. Versatile, little compromises, a beastly all-in-one device. And with that, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. All love to you guys anyway for watching towards the end of this video. And if you love this channel, you know what to do. Bye.